Okay, the recording has been started. Let me share my screen again. So, okay, Pooja. So let's get started. So before starting the actual session, so I would like to give you an idea about the course structure, like how it's gonna it's gonna be, like how we are going to walk you through the complete training. Okay. So the initial 2 days we'll learn about the tool, like what this tool is and where exactly it fits in, like what kind of problem it solves, what are the technical dependencies that are involved in implementing this tool. So we'll be discussing these things because, like, my aim is not just to blindly walk you through certain concepts, but to enable you to handle any kind of scenario in future. Okay, so for that reason, like, I'm keeping first 2 sessions as theoretical, and from third session onwards we'll deep dive into the actual tool and we'll start working on the installations, configurations, everything. Like hands-on will start from day 3. Okay. And in SailPoint, like, there are like various roles that we can take. Like there are roles for business analyst, there is a role for administrator, there is a role for developer. So this course basically covers everything. So if you want to go for an admin role, like this tool will give you enough knowledge to do so. And if you want to become a developer in SailPoint, so we may need to have some knowledge on Java and Winshell scripting, but you need not to worry. We will help you. Like if you want to be the developer, like we'll cover that topic also. But if you are not completely into the development, like we'll give you enough knowledge what basically developers do, so that you will be in sync while doing the administration work also. So this is how the course is going to work. So do you have any queries on that, or are you particularly looking for anything?
No, actually, I don't think I need a development point of view.
Okay. Okay, got it. So even in as you mentioned certifications, right? So in SailPoint we have different certifications. Like we have associate certificate, we have engineer certificate, we have architect certificate, we have different certificates like that. So for the role you are looking, right? So I strongly recommend to go for associate certificate, which is an entry level certificate for SailPoint IIQ, and which best suits for you basically. So like if you are looking for SailPoint certification, then you can
Okay.
start working on the associate certification that better suits your role. Okay.
Okay, okay.
So with that being said, let's get started. Okay. So first of all, we are going to learn a tool called SailPoint IIQ. So this IIQ basically stands for Identity IQ. So this is the name given to this tool by the vendor SailPoint. Okay. So first of all, what is this SailPoint IIQ? Let's understand that. So this SailPoint IIQ is basically an identity and access management solution, and it is developed by a vendor called SailPoint. And what exactly this SailPoint IIQ tool does is it solves some of the enterprise IAM problems. So when we say enterprise IAM problems, so we have so many organizations, and each organization have their own IAM setup in their organization, right? So there are some challenges that are being faced by the organizations from IAM point of view, but this SailPoint IAQ tool basically solves those problems. Okay. And anywhere, like if we are using any tool or any product, so the main purpose is like it helps us in one way or another. Either it solves some of the existing problems or it boosts up the business. So that way, like it helps the organization. Like that is the reason why anyone uses any tool. So similarly, this SailPoint IAQ, the main motto behind using this tool is to solve some of the enterprise IAM problems. So as I said, like when we say enterprise, this tool is mainly used for managing the IAM things of the particular organization. So it's not an open source, or we cannot use it on individual purpose. So it's mainly meant for the organizations, okay, for the companies. So this is all about the tool SailPoint IIQ. And let's break down the definition and let's try to understand each and every element of this definition, so that will be clear what we are exactly going to do and where we are going to fit in the organization. Okay, so we said like this is an identity and access management tool, and this is like developed by SailPoint, and it solves enterprise IAM problems. So first of all, let's understand what is IAM. So IAM stands for Identity and Access Management. Okay, so this is the expansion of IAM. So it stands for Identity and Access Management. So in IAM itself, we have two subdomains. So within IAM, we have something called IGA, which stands for Identity Governance and Administration. And we have one another subdomain within IAM. So this is called PAM. So which stands for Privileged Access Management. Okay. So among these two subdomains of IAM, so our SailPoint IIQ majorly fits in this IGA. So you might listen some of the people referring the SailPoint as an IGA tool also. So if we say IAM, yeah, it is correct. Like SailPoint IIQ is an IAM tool, but to be more specific in IAM, it's an IGA tool. So which basically stands for Identity Governance and Administration. So along with this IGA, IAM have another subdomain called PAM, which is Privileged Access Management, and you might have heard about it as well. So as you already have knowledge on like working with Okta. So this IAM, as we mentioned, Identity and Access Management, it is one of the subdomains of our cybersecurity. In cybersecurity, we basically have like 7+ major domains, and this IAM is one such domain. Okay. So as we said, it's a cybersecurity domain. So this mainly focus on security and data protection of the particular organization. So along with that, it also helps in meeting with compliances. Okay, so when we say compliance, like each organization have their own set of rules to be followed while implementing set of process, and along with that, the organizations may also need to follow some of the regulations given by the auditors or regulations given by the government of that particular country. So this IAM makes sure that like we are following all the cybersecurity guidelines and compliances that are imposed by the organization, imposed by any third party, like auditor complaints teams, and also by the government of the company. Okay. So by following these principles and by adhering to those compliance rules, and also will implement security for the organization. So this is what this IAM completely does. And we are going to make use of this SailPoint IIQ tool to implement what are maybe the security standards that we have this that we are discussing currently. Okay. And when we talk about IAM, and particularly while implementing our SailPoint IIQ, so we work with some core principles. So these are the IAM core principles for its successful implementation. So at the end of the implementation of your SailPoint IIQ, so if you check these things, these principles, and if you say like these principles are implemented properly, then you can say you have successfully implemented your SailPoint IIQ. So let's understand what are these core principles are. So among them, the first one is called least privilege. Okay. So least privilege is a IAM concept, or it's one of the core IAM principles, which says that so if any person is working for an organization, so we have to make sure that the person have only minimum access required to carry forward his work. So the person should not have more access than what is required, or at the same time, the person should not have less access than what is required. Okay. So what do we mean by that? For example, I joined an organization as a developer. So being a developer, like I should have access to certain tools. Like I need to have access to Jira tool. I need to have access to my code repository, like that. So if I have access to all these tools, then only I can perform my work as a developer. Let's say if I have any access less than what is required, let's say like I don't have access to code repository, then I cannot do my work as a developer. So it means the minimum access that is required to perform my work needs to be provided. And at the same time, I should not have access to do some like administrator related work in the code repository. So that is maybe something handled by that particular repo implementers. So if I have that access, then there are chances that I may do some unwanted operation. Let's say I should have access to just create some repositories or manage the repositories, but I should not have access to delete the repository, okay, which is not required for my role. So if I have that role, so that causes a problem. So that is what this least privilege basically says. So I should not have access which is not required for my role. So while implementing SailPoint IIQ, we are going to implement this least privilege concept as well. So this is the theory we discussed as a core principle, but practically we are going to see how we'll implement it while doing our SailPoint IIQ implementation. Okay. So along with this least privilege, we have one another core principle called zero trust. So in this cybersecurity world, so we should not be trusting anyone blindly, right? So we should have zero trust. It means we have to make sure that we have all the approvals or all the process set up at different places, so that whenever we are providing any access, like whenever any person is performing any activity, like that is properly authorized, and we are making sure that only that person is doing that activity. Okay. So this stands for zero trust. And at the same time, we have to take care of data integrity. So when we say the term integrity, it means whatever may be the data that we are handling, it is not tampered by unauthorized people. Let's say while implementing our SailPoint IAQ, we deal with lot of personal information. We call it as PII, personally identifiable information. So this is sensitive information, like PII is sensitive information. So we have to make sure that this sensitive information is not accessed by any unauthorized people, and at the same time it is not modified by any unauthorized people. Let's say like we have the data from HR. So we have a person's first name, last name, his location, and his phone number, email ID, something like that. So only authorized people like HR should have access to modify the data. Otherwise, if anyone have access to the data, so there are chances that the person may go and change their first name, the person may go and change their phone number. Like if we change phone number, we know like what else will happen. OTPs, everything will come there. They can like basically bypass all their passwords. Anything can happen, right? So that's why like when dealing with our SailPoint IIQ implementation, so we have to make sure that we are like this data integrity principle is followed by making sure that like unauthorized people do not have access to the data, and they don't have access to manipulate the data as well. So these are some of the core principles, especially these are like IAM core principles. So when we are implementing IAM anywhere, so these are some of the main things we have to check whether that is in place or not. Okay, so this we are going to implement during our SailPoint IIQ implementation as well. Okay, so I'll take a pause here, and if you have any doubts or queries, please let me know. Or if you have any difficulty in my teaching, if I'm going too fast, or if you are not able to catch me, please let me know, Pooja.
No, it is good till now.
Okay. So do you have any doubts on this?
Oh, not at this point.
Okay. Okay then. So I think we are good to proceed further, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So now that we understood what is this SailPoint IIQ and what is this IAM and where exactly this SailPoint fits in the IAM. So let's understand. So why we need some tool like SailPoint? So why do we need an identity and access management tool for an organization? Okay. So I would like to explain something more here. So we are saying identity and access management everywhere. So first of all, like what is this identity? What is this access? And what is this management? So let's understand that. So whenever we say identity, we are referring to the people who are working for an organization. So when we say this, there are employees who work for the organization, and there are contractors who work for the organization. There will be vendors, there will be interns, and depends on the sector we work. So some sectors like the manufacturing sector, pharmacy sector, they will have something called suppliers. So these are the people we refer whenever we say identity. So identity in the sense like we are digitally identifying a person. So that person may be an employee, the person may be a contractor, vendor, intern, supplier, like whoever it is. Okay. So when to identify a person digitally, like we use the term called identity. It means when we say identity, it is basically the person working for the organization. So to recognize him digitally, like we gather few details of the user, like his first name, last name, email ID, mobile number, address, these kind of information, and we'll put that together to uniquely identify that person in our system. So that unique record is nothing but identity. Okay. So when we say identity, so these are the human beings like who basically work for the organization. Okay. And when we say identity, it is not just limited to humans. We have some non-human identities also. So what do we mean by non-humans? So in our organizations, we have
Generic
RPAs.
ID.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, non-human means like something like generic IDs.
Yes, absolutely
Yeah.
right. So as you said, generic IDs. So there is an another term for this generic ID. So we call them as service accounts. Let's say you are doing an application to application integration. So we may need some user ID, like we may need some login ID and password, right? So that login ID and password will be used in that system to system integration. So the human interactive login will not happen. So such kind of identities are called service accounts. So we nowadays, like we have the automations coming in place, and where for automations we may need to configure some user IDs and passwords. We have bots coming up, right? So these are also identified, like termed as identity only. So when we say identity, you can take it in two ways, like human identities and non-human identities. So these non-human identities nowadays, like we are listening to a new term called machine identities. Okay. But in general, when we say identity, it covers both human identities and non-human identities. So when we say human identities, like these are the people like who work for the organization, like employees, contractors, and all. And when we say non-human identities, we are referring basically to the service accounts, bots, and automation agents, like that. Okay. So this is what do we mean by identity in this term, like identity and access management. Okay. So now I think we are good with the term identity, like what exactly it means, right? So now let's understand what do we mean by access. So any idea, Pooja, like what do we mean by access here? In general, like when we say access, what do we mean?
Like having permissions to use the certain.
Certain application. That's it.
Yeah.
So it's nothing but the permission we have to log into any particular application and to use that. And when we say the permissions may vary, right? Let's say you have access to ServiceNow tool. So in ServiceNow tool, your permissions may vary. So you may be only allowed to access the page like where you'll be raising requests for yourself and maybe to your reportees. But for administrator, they will have the privilege to create access requests for anyone in the organization. So they will also have access to modify the user interface. So these are nothing but levels of access. So when we say access, we are talking about permission to a particular application, and also the level of permission. To be simple, so when we say level of permission, it's nothing but, is it only read access, or is it write access, or is it execute access, or is it a combination of any of these? So this basically says about the level of permission. So this is what do we mean by access in our identity and access management term also. Okay, so we know like what is this identity and what is this access, and what do we mean by management? What do we mean by management? So here we are going to manage both identity and access. So when I say managing an identity, it means handling the life cycle of the identity. So what do we mean by life cycle? So in this context, we are more concerned about the employment of the particular identity within the organization. Okay, so we only consider that employment life cycle. So when we say employment life cycle, so what will happen? So the person will join the organization. So in meantime, the person may get transferred, or the person may get promoted, right? And the person may leave the organization. This can happen, right? So these are the possible events that can happen throughout that person's employment in the organization. The person may leave, and the person may go on leave. When we say leave, like let me use the word termination. Okay, it means that the person is leaving his employment. So the person may go on holiday. Let's use this word holiday, or maternity leave, paternity leave, something like that. So this is one of the events that can happen to that person. After leaving the organization, the person may rejoin, okay, rehire or rejoin, right? So when we say the life cycle, so these are the different events that we are talking about. Let's say if the person is joining the organization, so what should we do? So the HR records will change, the person will get certain access, he will get assets and all. So such things happens. So what should happen if the person gets transferred or promoted? Like what access needs to be transferred? Like what like new asset needs to be provided? So such things happen. So if the person is leaving the organization, so there are like certain process to take care of. The person's access needs to be removed. The person have to submit the assets. He need to clear a few formalities like all relieving checks. So such things happen. So from our IIM point of view, we handle what to do during these events for an identity. So this is nothing but management. So when we say manage, like we handle the complete life cycle. So join, what needs to be done, we have to do. Promotion, whatever the things need to be done from our side, like we do. And when the person leaving the organization, whatever needs to be done, like we do that. So this is what do we mean by management with respect to identity. So let's talk about access management. So when we say access management, so here also we'll cover the life cycle of the access. For example, this very same person, when he joined the organization, so we are giving like certain permissions. Let's say we are providing access to email application. So in order to provide access to email application, so what do we need to do? So first of all, we need to create an account for this user in that email application, right? So this is one activity that we do. Okay. So after creating the application, so we may need to add more permissions, or we may need to remove more permissions. So this may need to be done. Okay. So when the person is leaving the organization, so we may have to disable his access or remove his access to that application. And after a certain period of time, we may have to delete that particular application account for that user. Okay. So these are the different events that could happen for a particular application account, right? For that particular access. So through SailPoint, we handle this one as well. So we create accounts, we add or remove permissions, we disable account, we delete account, and all these activities we do through SailPoint. So this is what we mean by identity and access management. So for identity, we take care of the person, like when the person joins, like transfers, leaves the organization. At the same time, what are maybe the activities that needs to be done for that account or for that access, so we'll handle that as well. So this is what we basically do with SailPoint IIQ, and this is what do we mean by identity and access management. Okay. Okay, so now that we understood like what is this identity and the access management, and now let's see, why do we need a tool like SailPoint? Why can't we do it other way around? And what is the problem that enterprises are, or the organizations are facing without tools like SailPoint IIQ? Okay, let's see that. For example, let's consider a scenario where a new employee is joining the organization. Okay, and imagine we don't have tools like SailPoint. Okay, so let's understand like what is the scenario and what are the problems. For example, when the employee joins the organization, so we have to provide certain access to that person, right? So that person need login credentials, the person need email credentials, that person need access to like some of the ITIS portals like ServiceNow or Jira. Okay. So in order to provide access to that, so what we need to do, so we basically have some ticketing tool, or we may need to write an email to that particular application team saying that boss, like I joined the organization, or your manager have to go and drop an email or raise a request for you saying like this so and so person joined the organization, so the person may need access to this uh, like system credentials, email ID and service now, like that. Okay, the email is sent or the request has been raised, so that will be assigned to someone. So some person have to work on it. So the person have to take the ticket or check the mail. He need to go to the particular application. He need to create an account for you. So it takes time. That manual work basically takes time, and you might be aware like how much time it will take to close a ticket in any of the ticketing tool once it is raised. And along with the time, it takes a lot of time to fulfill like what are maybe the access you requested. So there are high chances of errors, right? So while entering your details, the person may misspell your first name or last name, like he might not have provided you all the necessary details or all necessary actions required. So a lot of such issues happens, right? And same is the case with other operations. Let's say like you already have access to your email, you need more permissions, so you have to raise a ticket. That again the fulfillment will take time. And when you are leaving the organization, so someone have to raise a request on behalf of you to remove your access, otherwise it's a big risk. Okay, so imagine what is the issue in following this process. Let's say the person joined the organization today and all the tickets are raised, and it will take up to 10 days to get all the necessary action, I mean all necessary access to start working. So for this 10 days, the the employee will not do any work. So here the productivity is hampered, right? The organizations are paying salary for this person for 10 days, but they are not getting any productivity. So there is an impact on the finance and productivity. So this is one of the problems faced by the organizations. Okay, delay in providing access that basically hampers their productivity. And the main one is removing access. So while removing the access, like today is my last working day, if my access is not removed by today, so there is a huge risk, right? So if they're raising ticket today, and if my access will be removed after 5 or 10 days, then in next 5 or 10 days I can do anything. So I am no longer belong to that particular organization, but still I have access to the systems, but I can do anything. I can delete the data, I can hamper the systems, I can do anything, right? So which is a huge risk for the organization. So in this digital world, the main asset of the organization is their digital data. So it is very important for them to protect it. So if we don't remove the access, it's a big risk. So here only the productivity is impacted, and only there is a small impact on the finance. But here, this particular event, like if we don't remove the access on time, it could it could result in financial impact, or it could result in legal impact, or there are chances that the entire organization may collapse. So this is very risky. So this is the one of the main problems faced by the organization. So to make sure that the access is removed on time. So you now understand, like when we follow the existing like ticketing system, so it will not happen on time. So this is a problem. And along with that, like we have some auditing and compliance things happens, and we may have to provide evidences, like when we have access, when we have provided access to that person, like why it is not removed. All those things are additional challenges that the organizations will face. So tools like SailPoint IIQ basically solves these problems. Okay. So it makes sure that when an employee joins the organization, so the access is provided to that person as soon as possible in an automated way. Through that automation, like SailPoint solves this problem of this productivity issue. And along with that, SailPoint will also make sure that access is removed for the person if the person is leaving the organization immediately or as soon as possible, thereby minimizing the impact on the organization or reducing the risk. Okay. So these are the two major problems that we can primarily highlight. Though there are many other problems it is solving, like that are uh, very deep, like it takes a lot of time to discuss each and every one of things, but at the very high level, so we can consider this as some major problems that IAM tools like SailPoint IIQ is solving. Okay. So any queries on this, or are we good?
Yeah, it is good till now.
Okay. Yeah, you can generalize this because as I said, like the first two sessions are like very generic. So it's all about our common sense. Like it's all about our robust approach for protection of assets and data. So it's not like a generic IAM concept or something. It's like a common topic. So we can also think about what are the other challenges that the organizations may have, and how our IAM tools will address such challenges. Like you can think in a generic way also, and if you have any doubts, like you can let me know. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so now that we are good with the core concepts or the basic fundamentals of IAM, SailPoint, and what exactly we are doing. So now by this, we should understand where exactly we fit in an organization, or what is our scope of work as a SailPoint implementation engineer within the organization's landscape, right? So now these are all like very generic, like we discussed about the IAM and its generic stuff. But now let's narrow down our learning scope. So we deep dive into only our SailPoint IIQ product. Okay. So there are many IAM tools. Okay, as I mentioned, when we say IAM, we have IGA and PAM, and within IGA itself, like we have multiple tools, and within PAM also we have multiple tools. So we are not going to learn each and everything, but we only focus on one tool that we are going to learn, that is SailPoint IIQ. But we are just uh, trying to know about the other tools just for our knowledge. So we also need to be aware of our competitors, what they are doing, right? So when we are learning SailPoint, it is not just SailPoint, like we should be aware of the other tools in the market as well. So for that knowledge, let's discuss what are the different IAM tools available in the market. And after that, like we'll go with why SailPoint IIQ itself, what are the advantages in using it and what are the disadvantages in using it. We'll discuss these topics. Okay. So what are maybe the problems that we have discussed, right? These IAM related problems. So we are basically using some tools in order to solve those problems. For example, these tools are used for automation of this access, for creation of access and for removal of access. So it is not just SailPoint IIQ that is available in the market, so that basically solves these problems. So there are many other tools along with our SailPoint IIQ. So let's see like what are the other tools. So one such tool in the market is OIM. It's called Oracle Identity Manager. So this is a tool developed and marketed by Oracle. So this Oracle OIM or Oracle Identity Manager is one such IAM tool similar to SailPoint IIQ. Okay, and we have another tool called CA SiteMinder. So this is one another tool we have in the market, and Savient. So Savient is next level technology, I can say. Like in the IAM world, currently SailPoint is leading the market. So it tops the table in the IAM product domain. But next to SailPoint IIQ, if there is any product that is leading the market, then it is Savient. So we can consider Savient as a competitor for SailPoint. So they are also like picking up very quickly. And we have something called ISIM. So it's called Identity Security and Identity Management. This tool is basically developed by IBM. Okay. And we know like what we are going to learn, SailPoint IIQ. So this is one such product, just like OEM, CS, and like that. So we have SailPoint IIQ, and we have something called Identity Now also, which is from SailPoint itself. So these are the different tool names. And as I mentioned, OEM is from Oracle, Savient is from Savient itself, ISIM is from IBM, but SailPoint IIQ is from SailPoint. Identity Now is also from SailPoint. So why
Is
is
there anything that came up very recently? Identity Security Cloud.
yes?
Yeah. Actually, I wanted to take that by that, but I didn't find any vendors
Actually,
that
this
they have.
what we can say, Identity Security Cloud is nothing but an modified version of Identity Now.
Okay.
Okay, so it's same like Identity Now, like they are trying to rename it.
So there is
Yes.
going to be much difference between SailPoint IIQ and Identity Now.
Yeah, so that's what we are going to discuss. So we'll see like why there are two tools from the same vendor.
Okay.
Why is it so? Okay. See, so the main reason why SailPoint do have two solutions. So basically, the the end problem that is solved by both the tools is same. So it is going to help us in this access provisioning and deprovisioning. The end purpose is same, but the reason why we have two different tools is like this. For example, in order to understand the difference, let's understand these terms: on-premise and cloud. So it is already mentioned here. So I'll just take the text from here. So we need to understand what do we mean by on-premise and what do we mean by cloud. Okay. So when we say on-premise, so it is nothing but our local infrastructure. So when we say on-premise for any organization, so each organization have their own data centers, right? They have their own servers. So if they want to implement anything within the data centers, like we call it as on-premise implementation. Let's say if we give SailPoint tool, they will take the tool and install it in their local servers or in their organization's data center servers, and they will start using it. So that is called on-premise. And if it is on-premise, we have to take care of the maintenance of that particular application. So let's say if I'm implementing SailPoint IIQ on premise, so if any upgrade needs to be done, I have to do it manually. If any patching needs to be done, that we have to do. So people who implemented it, they have to do the upgrades, patches, maintenance, everything. So whereas nowadays we have most of the solutions coming as cloud-based solutions, right? So when we talk in the cloud terminology, this is termed as SaaS. So this SaaS stands for software as service. So you might have heard about this IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, these three terms in the cloud era. So in the cloud, basically they're offering these as services. Okay, it means like you will not own it completely. It will not be present within your data centers or anywhere, but you will use it on demand basis. Okay, so one best example for the software as service is, and to understand the difference between on-premise and cloud is, so let's take your Microsoft Office applications. Okay, we have PowerPoint, we have Excel, we have Word, right? So this Word, Excel, PowerPoint, you can install it in your laptop or desktop and you can use it. So this is nothing but on-premise. So when you create a file, it will be like local to your laptop or to your system. So you cannot access it anywhere outside until or unless you share it through some medium. Okay, the copy resides in your system. Whereas this Microsoft Dynamic 365 or Office 365, which is a cloud-based solution, and where they're offering the very same products as service. So this is a software, right? Excel is a software, PowerPoint is a software. So instead of giving that software to you to install on your system, they're offering that software as a service. So when we say service, you will access it and use it on demand basis. So they will not give you the complete application, but if you want on the browser, you can access the particular site for Excel at the particular site for PPT. You can work on it, use it on how much ever storage you want, on whatever maybe the features you want. You can take that and you can use it. Okay. So this is the major difference between on-premise and cloud. So similarly, when we say SailPoint IIQ, so it is basically an on-premise solution. It means we will get the SailPoint IIQ installer in our hand. So we'll install it in the organization servers and we'll do implementation and we'll take care of the maintenance like patching, upgrade, everything. So this is SailPoint IIQ, like which is an on-premise solution. So whereas Identity now, they're offering the same IGA services as a cloud service. So in this case, they will not give you any product for installation, but you have to take a subscription to their cloud services. You have to take the subscription to their cloud. You have to do the configurations of, on the cloud itself, and you will use. So here you will not manage anything, like you will not manage any servers, you will not install the product or maintain the product, or you will not do patching or anything. So everything will be taken care by SailPoint, but you just access the application, do the configurations, and you implement it for your organization. So this is major difference between SailPoint IAQ and SailPoint Identity now. And the reason why SailPoint developed both on-premise and cloud solutions. So initially they developed the SailPoint IIQ itself, like which is an on-premise solution. But to meet the competition and to meet the requirements of the customers, so they went for identity now. So nowadays everyone is into cloud, right? So no one is like taking care of, no one wants to take the headache of maintaining the servers, patches and upgrades, like put some money again on that and such activities. So mostly people are trying to migrate to cloud. So to gain the market, so if SailPoint is not moving to cloud, so what are maybe the customers focused on cloud, they will go away from SailPoint. So in order to capture their market, they're having another tool called identity now. Okay, so when we talk about the other tools that we discussed, right? OEM is an on-premise solution. CA, this one I'm not sure, but Savient is a cloud-based solution. So Savient don't have any on-premise applications. So right from day one, it has been developed as a cloud-based solution only. Yeah, and ISIM, it's a legacy tool. It's completely an on-premise solution. Okay. So these are the different products. So this is not just the complete list, but some of the products of IAM in SailPoint. So we have some other PAM solutions as well. Like we have Ping Identity, we have CyberArk, we have what we call Beyond Trust. Such kind of applications are there. Like those are also IAM tools, but these are specifically with respect to IGA or something relevant to our SailPoint IIQ. Okay. Now we have also discussed the differences between SailPoint IIQ and SailPoint Identity now. And one another point to highlight is, so in between SailPoint IIQ and Identity now, like if we discuss the advantages and disadvantages, the advantage in SailPoint IIQ is, so the implementers or developers have more option for its customization. So the SailPoint IIQ is such a tool that we can altogether completely develop a separate feature, and we have that level of control for its customization. But when we talk about the disadvantage of SailPoint IIQ, as I said, the maintenance. So we have to do upgrades, we have to do patches, everything on ourselves, like which is an added task for us. But when it comes to identity now, so the developers or implementers don't have that much of access for its customization. So as it is a cloud solution, if we need any customization within the product, like we have to approach SailPoint only. And when they feel like it's a generic customization, then they will consider and do it. Otherwise, like they will not do customizations that easily. So this is one drawback for SailPoint identity now from implementation point of view. But the advantage is like it's seamless access. You can access it anywhere, and there is no headache of maintenance. Okay, and whether we need to go for IAQ or identity now, it's altogether a different question. So it depends on the particular organization's situation. So some people may feel that their data is more sensitive and they don't want the data to put in some other place. So they are good enough to keep the data on themselves and protect it. So people like who feel like their data is sensitive and they don't want to put it in other hands, so they will definitely go for SailPoint IIQ. And people like who have a lot of requirements for customizations, complex customizations, they also prefer SailPoint IIQ only. But people like who don't have complexity in any of its IAM implementation and who need on-demand basis like easy solution and who don't want this overhead of maintenance, then they will prefer cloud. Okay, so they will go for identity now. And as you are saying, this identity now, as it is evolving, SailPoint is trying to rename identity now as Identity Security Cloud. So the main reason is they want the name to reflect the objectives or what may be the end goal it is trying to achieve. So it says identity security cloud. It means they're managing the identity security in the cloud platform itself. So to make that more clear in the name itself, like they are trying to rename it to identity security cloud. So apart from that, there are no much differences in between identity now and the ISC. It's just another name, right? So any questions, Pooja? Any doubts?
So, like a tool point of view, so, if I learn this SailPoint IIQ, will I be able to understand identity now as well, or it's
Yes,
going to be different?
be able to understand.
Okay.
So as I said, the core problem that is being solved by either SailPoint IIQ or Identity Now or Savient is same. So in order to enter this IAM world, so you need to understand those core principles, and first you need to understand what exactly you are going to do. So you are going to achieve something, you are going to achieve some security. You're taking help of a tool to do that. So that tool could be IAQ, that tool could be Identity Now, or the tool could be Savient. But your end goal is same, right? And that too as this IAQ and identity now are coming from the same vendor, SailPoint. Most of the concepts are same, like 80 to 90% concepts are same. So the only difference, like in the implementation that you see in between IAQ and identity now, is some terminology and the UI change. Let's say if you want to configure an application in SailPoint, you will have option like applications and application definition. But in identity now, you may have to go to the admin module, applications, connection, something like that. So such options and terminologies will vary, but the end goal, concepts, everything is same. As I said, like 80 to 90% both will be same.
Okay.
Right. Any questions for that?
Nothing. That is what.
Okay,
Yeah, good
fine.
for now.
Yeah, I'll pause the session here for today, and like we'll get started with the other topics from next session onward. So in meantime, like if you have any doubts, like you can come up with your doubts either before starting the session or after, before closing the session. We can go through the doubts and questions you have, and along with that, like we can discuss our regular topics as well.
Sure, sure.
Right. Okay, Pooja, then I think we are good. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for your time. Bye bye.
Yeah, bye. Yes, but we are good, like we are closing the session.